Hello, and thank you for joining us today. In this short presentation, we're going to outline a key strategy to prepare for interviewing success. More and more companies rely on behavioral interviewing to get a good read on a candidate's fit for a position. They know that the best predictor of future success is in past performance. So behavioral interview questions will ask you to provide examples of when you've demonstrated the skills or abilities they know will be integral to your success in the role they are considering you for. My name is Brian Henry. I'm the Senior VP of Operations of Recruiting here at Orion. Former Marine Infantry officer. I've got about 20 years experience in this space and look forward to covering this key tool in your preparation to get ready for interviewing success. The STAR format is a tool for you to use to organize impactful answers to the behavioral questions you can anticipate getting in an interview. Ideally, you can brainstorm and come up with a fairly comprehensive list of the skills, abilities, experiences, behaviors, and knowledge that your interviewer will be looking for in an ideal candidate. Armed with that information, you just need to have a library of examples at the ready to tap into and employ in your interview. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and results. This is a format that you're going to want to use to outline and formulate your job-winning answers and give you the utmost confidence that you are prepared for your interview. Let's look at each section of the STAR format. First is situation. This is where you will set the stage for the rest of the answer. You want to paint a good picture for the interviewer of what was happening, what your role was, and any other pertinent information that will help them relate to the rest of the story that you'll be telling them. When transitioning from the military, you want to take into consideration the interviewer's background and make sure you spend and invest enough time in the background information so they'll understand the story that you're about to tell them, even if they've never served in the military. So you want to be able to break it down into layman's terms and make it clear that situation that you were faced with that anyone can understand. The second part is the task or the obstacle or the problem you were faced with. You may have touched on it a bit in the situation, but this is where you will want to clearly identify what your task was. Keep in mind that this will help set up a measuring stick for the results that you're going to emphasize at the end. The third section of the STAR format is really the most important element. This is where you're going to want to go into detail on what you did and how you went about tackling the problem at hand. Through your actions, you can show things like your project management skills, how you adapted to different situations, overcame obstacles, and how you collaborate with others to solve a problem. This is the meat of the answer. This is where you're going to focus the bulk of your content as you build out these examples. And the last piece of the STAR format, the last section, is the results. You will close the answer with the results you achieved. Don't be too humble here. Pick examples that you know are going to lead to positive results that clearly show the impact that you had in your previous positions. You want to excite the interviewer and have them visualizing you having similar successes once you join their organization. Now that you understand the STAR format and how using it to outline your answers is key to being prepared to win any interview, the next step is to actually build a series of examples that will highlight your particular skills and experiences. This slide lists many of the topics that you should be prepared to have good examples ready to illustrate. Additionally, you're going to want to think about the most important skills and strengths that you're bringing to the table and be ready to give stories for each of those. And lastly, you want to ask yourself, what are the most desirable skills and experiences the interviewer is looking for in a candidate, and make sure you've got good stories for each of those. So as you take all of these major headings, whether it's leadership or organization skills or sales ability, as you brainstorm and think about those examples that you have, the situations you've been in and the stories that you're going to be able to tell. Once you've built this library of stories, you can also then go and look at a list of interview questions. And you can pick out what story you'll be able to use to answer each question. Any gaps that you find where you don't really have a good example to match up with a typical interview question you might expect, then you can go back to the drawing board and come up with a good example that could be used to answer that question. Time you spend preparing solid examples really will be worth it. So as in summary, in this short presentation, the STAR format is really a great tool to help you organize the real life experiences that you've had that are relevant to the position you're interviewing for. Take the time to build out a book of stories that you can have prepared, organized, and fresh in your mind. Put pen on paper. Outline as many examples as you can. You don't need to memorize verbatim your story. But if you take the time to outline using the situation, task, action, result format, you're going to be able to build out the depth and the key points that you're going to need to remember to refresh that situation in your mind. And you're going to have a well-organized flow to your answer, starting with painting the picture and ending up with the key impactful results that you had. Make sure you hit each section of that STAR format, and those detailed and organized answers are bound to lead to follow-on questions. The interviewer is likely to ask, how did you do that? Or tell me more about this. At this point, you've piqued their interest, and you'll find that the interview can become much more conversational and more relaxed than on the flip side if you were to give very shallow answers with no meat or details to it. They've got nothing but to go on to another question. So build out those good, impactful answers and stories. Put pen on paper. And once you've created this book of examples, you can refer back to it the night before an interview and make sure that those stories are fresh in your mind. And you also want to make sure that you particularly focus in on those key examples and that highlight the strengths and the skills and experiences that are relevant to the job that you're going to be interviewing for. So you want to have a broad library of examples. And as you prepare for each individual interview, you want to make sure that you have a good sense of which ones you're going to go in, what's your game plan going in, what stories are you going to be ready to tell, what examples are you going to plug into things like your 3 greatest strengths, a time that you solved a problem. You've got stories that are going to give examples that are very relevant to what you're interviewing for. So you want to tailor it to each individual one. So that's the STAR format: situation, task, action, results. Definitely, as I said, interviewing is a skill. It's something the more time and preparation you put into it, the better you're going to be when the time comes. You can start preparing months before you interview, continue to hone those skills, and then, as I said, prepare, customize for each individual interview you go into. You want to look at it and have a game plan for that individual interview. But the starting point is building out that library of stories and examples that you're going to rely on to be able to bring that interview to life, let them know who you are, what you've done, and how you can make an impact and be the person they want to hire for that company. So I encourage you to put that time in. Thanks for listening today. I also encourage you to take advantage of the many resources that we have available on Orion's website, to include the From the Battlefield to the Boardroom podcast. We have new content coming out each and every week, broken down into a lot of subcategories to include interview preparation. So again, all the best to you in your job search and transition, and best of luck.